Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A report has emerged claiming that Vladimir Putin is willing to enter into negotiations about a temporary peace deal with Ukraine. According to independent news site Meduza, the Russian president, seen here yesterday meeting Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, is willing to take part in discussions and could even withdraw his troops from the Kherson area. However, a number of conditions would be needed, including that Crimea is not part of the talks and that annexed Donbass territory remains under Russian control. It comes as the regional governor in Zaporizhia said a further 3 missiles had destroyed buildings in the city. Ukraine's president has marked the country's Defenders' Day holiday by promising victory over Russia and freedom for Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky commemorated fallen Ukrainian soldiers by holding a moment of silence next to the memorial wall at St. Michael's Cathedral in central Kyiv. He later thanked Ukraine's armed forces for defending their country and said everything that had been taken away from Ukraine would be returned. Beijing authorities have stepped up security and COVID controls in the Chinese capital for the 20th Communist Party Congress. It's after a rare and dramatic protest in Beijing that criticised President Xi Jinping had sparked an online hunt for the mystery protester's identity. Police were seen clearing away the banners he had mounted on Sertong Bridge in the Haidan district of Beijing, calling for an end to China's harsh zero-COVID policy and the overthrow of Mr. Xi. The once every 5-year event brings together 2,300 party members at the vast Great Hall of People on Tiananmen Square. Xi Jinping is set to clinch his 3rd 5-year stint in charge, a mandate that would secure his stature as the country's most powerful ruler since founding leader Mao Zedong. Communities in 3 Australian states have been ordered to evacuate as torrential rains bring major flooding. Parts of the country have received up to 4 times their average October rainfall in just 24 hours. At least 500 homes have been flooded, 1 person has died and another is missing as the disaster unfolds. Widespread flooding across Australia, driven by La Nina weather pattern, has killed more than 20 people this year. Here, dozens of horses being rescued. Local media reported about 200 stud horses were at risk of being washed away in the rural Victorian town of Mangalore when a call for help from volunteers was put out. A group of senior Conservatives have decided to call publicly on Liz Truss to resign following the sacking of her Chancellor. Kwasi Kwarteng returned early from a trip to the United States. His 38 days in office makes him the 2nd shortest serving UK Chancellor on record. He was later seen leaving Downing Street for the final time. It's after his so-called mini-budget caused the pound to hit record lows. He responded by letter to the Prime Minister accepting his dismissal. Jeremy Hunt, the former Health Secretary, will now take over as Chancellor of the Exchequer.
I met the former Chancellor earlier today. I was incredibly sorry to lose him. He is a great friend, and he shares my vision to set this country on the path to growth. Today, I have asked Jeremy Hunt to become the new Chancellor. He's one of the most experienced and widely respected government ministers and parliamentarians, and he shares my convictions and ambitions for our country.
And a Turkish opposition lawmaker has smashed his phone with a hammer during a speech in Parliament to protest against a proposed disinformation and social media bill. Burak Erbey, a member of the main opposition People's Republican Party, took out a hammer from a bag and started smashing the cell phone as he addressed the Parliament during the debate for the proposed bill. He said if the disinformation bill passes, people can break their phones and throw them away. Critics say the bill threatens free speech and could further harm journalism ahead of next year's elections. President Tayyip Erdogan's government says the legislation would address misinformation in the press and on social media. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.